Monday, August 25th here on the Just Baseball Show. That's Arm Layden and I'm Peter Apple. And today, a very, very special guest. Jeff, I bomb atomically. Passan joins the Just Baseball Show to talk about so much. He gave us a full hour. We're going to talk about the Samuel Basallo extension, what could have been, a couple of trades that never actually happened, but it's fun to think about what could have been, potential realignment, the upcoming CBA in 2027. Are we going to get a lockout or not? Brewers Excellence, underrated organizations. And then the last 20 minutes is on the 2026 MLB Free Agency, and it's all brought to us by the sportsbook born in Vegas. Remember, folks, download BetMGM, whether that be on iOS or Android, and use promo code JUSTBASEBALL. Why? First bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. But remember, gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. Aram, we got Jeff Passan.
Yeah, man. I can't believe he gave us an hour too. With how much he has going on, I very much appreciate it. He's the man. I even felt like I know you probably get asked this more than anybody on earth, but like, would you come on our show? And he was kind enough to do it and give us a full hour of his time. We even he took a break for a second to report that the Basallo deal was done, and then we jumped right back into it. I was like, "You can go if you want." Nope, I'm good. And he gave us another 20 after that. So he's the man for that, and it was about as awesome as we could have imagined. So many topics, so much insight, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it.
It was the coolest break that I've ever been a part of in about the 940 episodes of the Just Baseball Show. Like Jeff Passan having to say, hey, wait, guys, can we pause the show for a second? I have to finish this report. And I was like, don't apologize. Are you kidding me? This is awesome just to be a part of it, watching him tweet. Because, of course.
Well, then you're going to get your phone buzz because everyone has his notifications on. It's like, oh, yeah, well, I just watched him do that. So, yeah, that was pretty good. And great timing, though, because I know that people would listen to me and talking about, hey, this doesn't mean Adley's getting traded. Like Basallo's not even in the same stratosphere as him defensively. But now you could just take it from Passan too, who's got his finger on the pulse of that whole situation as well.
So I do apologize. No weekend roundup today, but hopefully we're making it up to everyone with an interview with Jeff Passan. And before we get to that, the best way to support the Just Baseball Show is to rate and review Spotify and Apple Podcasts 5 stars, as well as subscribing, liking, and commenting on YouTube. And without further ado, here's Jeff Passan.
And here is Jeff Passan.
Don't fuck it up this time. Sorry.
I was going to give you a compliment now. Now I might take it back. I was going to say your favorite insider's favorite insider. Wow. Now I'm just going to say Jeff Passan, the guy that wins every Twitter debate. But Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. You just broke some big news today. We're going to talk about that, but also we got expansion, potentially realignment, all that good stuff. But Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us.
It's my pleasure. And to be clear, he did not fuck it up completely. Just a little typical fumble of the words. I've done it 1,000 times, and then you just go 3, 2, 1 and start over.
And that's exactly what we did. But you gave us a more fun intro here, so I appreciate that. I want to start with the Basallo deal because you had pretty much broke that late in the morning. It was something that, of course, it takes some time. It's not something that's usually easily negotiated with the pre-arbitration extensions. But we get that with the Orioles after a handful of games. Of course, you're looking at one of the best power hitters in minor league baseball, a guy that's a top 5 or 6 prospect for us at Just Baseball. But how long was this in the works for? Is it just kind of a coincidence based on he debuted and it's a few days after? Like, there's not really anything a team can see in 4 games and say, okay, now we're ready for this pre-arb extension.
No, I think the Orioles knew that and knew this not just this year, but like back in 2023 when Samuel Basallo broke out, that if he remains on this trajectory, he's the kind of guy who we would love to lock up to an extension. That's been one of the interesting parts of Baltimore's evolution over the last few years. They go from a 101 win juggernaut with a bunch of young players who look like they are primed to be extension candidates. And then last year sort of regresses a little bit. And then this year, the bottom completely drops out from under it. And still, up until this point, the Orioles had not signed a single young player in their core to a long-term deal. And so to get Basallo locked up at the rate they did for the number of years they did is a huge, huge win for them. And it's the second time in a couple of weeks now that we've seen players who are debuting at very young ages. In Roman Anthony's case, at 20 years old, at Basallo just past his 21st birthday, sign deals that are going to take them to the cusp of age 30 for free agency. And really, I did this exercise a little earlier this year where I looked at, hey, who's potentially the next Juan Soto? Now, I'm not going to say that could have been Roman Anthony. I'm not going to say that would have been Sam Basallo. But I think what we need to look at, and what is a trend that is wonderful for teams and is alarming for the Major League Baseball Players Association, is the instinct among young players to go and get your bag pretty much right after you've debuted. And I get it. Like, I get the idea of having generational money absolutely guaranteed to you, regardless of what your performance is. But what that takes away is the possibility of another $700 million contract. And right now, the number of candidates who could even be in the realm of that possibility, you can count them on one hand.
So you mentioned that this was the first big extension that Mike Elias made since he became the GM of the Orioles back in 2018. So my question is, why is Basallo his golden goose? Because I'm thinking about Kauser, Westberg, of course Gunnar. I know he's a Boris client. You got Adley. A number of players have gone through their system without pre-arb deals, but Basallo, 4 games in, Elias says, "Yep, 8 years, 67 million."
I think it's a couple of things. Number one, it's the Orioles' belief in him, how good Samuel Basallo could be. And we're not talking like an ordinary prospect here. This is a guy who's hitting the ball 116 plus miles per hour, whose 90th percentile EV is at 108 plus. I mean, it's elite numbers. And just talking with scouts throughout this season, multiple guys reached out to me unprompted and were like, "Besides the best bat in the minor leagues right now,
Mm.
period." Like there's nobody else in the conversation. And look, if we look at, I don't know what your guys' top 100 looks like right now, but if we look at, I'll take Kylie McDaniels for example. You know, Connor Griffin, a guy whose value is quite a bit in his bat, no question. But there were issues with the swing and questions about the bat to ball coming out. Clearly, he has done a good job of erasing those with this year, where he's shot up prospect list. Kevin McGonigal, he is a better hitter than Sam Basallo. He doesn't have the power though. Leo DeVries, another guy who has the chance to be something great, but again, just debuted at Double A. So the fact that Basallo at 21 years old is in the big leagues right now, that I think had a big part to do with this. But we also have to look at the context of who all those other guys are. It's not just Gunnar Henderson, but also Jackson Holliday, who have Scott Boras as an agent. Adley Rutschman is with Wasserman and has turned down overtures in the past and has had no interest in signing an undermarket deal. And in that, at the end of the day, that's what Basallo is. It's an undermarket deal. And whether it's Jordan Westberg, who also, by the way, is a Scott Boras client, or Colton Cowser, these are guys who don't have those same interests. And for the sake of like future free agency, I think it's a good thing when not a lot of guys sign young deals, because I'm interested in what's happening in November and December and January and February almost as much as I am from April through the end of October. And there are plenty of people out there who are even more interested in those machinations. So I like good free agent classes. I like stars being out there. It's a great story. It's a great storyline. And the more extensions we see like this, the less of that we have.
Last Basayo related question, because you mentioned Adley Rutschman, and I think it's a really interesting wrinkle in this. As I kind of put out on my personal feed, was just I don't think it has much of an immediate impact on Adley because Basayo, the one drawback is the defense. Right? He's got a rocket for an arm, but I've been able to watch him a good bit. It's a work in progress in terms of the receiving, blocking, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
But you're locking up the bat here. What's your understanding of just how the Orioles view that situation? Of course, we're in a game now where, unless you're Cal Raleigh, like you're not catching 90% of games anyways. But how do the Orioles see that situation long term? Do they still want, more of a 60-40 divvy, or is it going to be maybe Basayo catching 1 to 2 times a week, assuming Adley's healthy?
Yeah, as long as Adley Rutschman's healthy, he's the full-time catcher. I think it's as simple as that. Now, this gives the Orioles opportunity to at least listen maybe more than they would have, but trading Adley Rutschman right now just doesn't make sense because the Orioles know what he can be and they know what he's been, and the delta between those two is significant enough where the Orioles are going to want the price of what he could be and teams are going to want to pay the price of what he was. So, the way I see this shaking out, Adley Rutschman will catch 115 games next year. Sam Basallo will catch 45. Basallo will DH for another 35 games and play first base for another 80 games. They will find like this deal. The fact that he can catch, it's great. It's not why they signed him to this
Yep,
deal. This,
exactly.
this is a bat first bordering on bat only deal. And if he does wind up a catcher, then hey, that is great for the organization that they were able to sign. It really is part of their first foray back into Latin America after being absent there for decades, that you spend 1-3 on Sam Basallo and get this player in this amount of time, the ROI, it just goes to show. Like Mike Elias, as much as the Orioles are thought of like as an analytical team, Mike Elias is a scout. Came
Mhm.
up as a scout, was a scouting director, has personnel in his blood, and so the Orioles they're thrilled with this, and they should be. It's a really good deal for them.
Damn good tandem in Baltimore. And as a Yankee fan, I'm personally very jealous. And we also got a report from your colleague, Kylie McDaniel, that the Yankees had a deal with Samuel Basallo as an amateur when he was eligible to sign back in 2021. But the Yankees signed Garrett Cole, which is obviously still a good thing, but it resulted in a $1 million loss in international bonus pool money. Deal falls through. Orioles sign him for 1.3 million. Can you walk us through that a little bit more? And are there any other deals like that that maybe haven't been reported or have been that you can look back on and say, there's a couple that did eventually get away?
Oh my God. I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr. Was supposed to sign with the Kansas City Royals, I think.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. A number of teams when Juan Soto was an amateur made late runs for him. And I got to be honest, like in situations like this, I tend to rely mostly on the player's perspective. And I haven't asked a ton of guys about this, but business in the Dominican Republic and in Venezuela, it's the best word for it is slippery. I got a text earlier today from a GM who had seen Kylie's post and was saying, the story with Basayo, there's another twist to it. And he's like, I'll give it to you next time I see you in person. And I'm kind of curious what that twist is because in Latin America, anything goes. And the fact that Major League Baseball has not policed it to the extent that, frankly, it has needed for decades now has been a failure by the league. And it's understandable why they want to put the draft process in place
Yep.
because as much as a draft limits the market for a player and is antithetical to what the Major League Baseball Players Association wants for its players, which is a free market. I think fixing the issues in Latin America should be the top priority of everybody involved, not just the league, but the players should have that as well. And it's just a shame that it's taken as long as it has for the issue still not to be resolved.
Real
Some
quick,
of the craziest. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
real quick, I just got to ask Acuna to Kansas City. I need you to dive into that one a little bit more.
I don't even remember the details on that
Okay.
one. I just remember that I could be watching Ronald Acuna Jr. at home every day,
Yeah,
and
he would
now
have
I
been in
have
your
to watch him on
backyard.
TV. Yeah,
Same lineup with
you know what
Bobby.
though? Like I can't complain. I have Bobby Wood Jr. here,
Yeah.
so that's a fun thing to get to see.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the craziest stories I've gotten of just almost signings or just the wild west of just how things have gone down have been from, scouts or international scouts or just
Yep.
teams officials that have just told me, oh, you wouldn't believe how this fell through or that fell through. And
I
there's a
mean, it,
lot of
it
crazy
happened. It
stuff.
happened like it happens in the draft too, though.
Yes, it is true.
There was a player this year who got offered $3 million by a team and said, or no, I think he got offered 275, and this was during the it's wild during the draft, like all of the negotiations that are going down before it gets to a team's pick. And a kid wanted $3 million, was offered 275, and said nope, not doing it, and wound up not being picked by that team. And there were hard feelings about it. And it's just, there's so many of those sliding door moments in baseball that you really do wonder what an alternate universe would look like. Like what does Aaron Judge look like as a Detroit Tiger?
Mm.
I that's not like a real thing, by the way, but in another world, maybe there's a Tiger scout who has a good relationship with Mike Batesel at Fresno State, and Batesel says to him, "You have to pick Aaron Judge. He is going to be a superstar." And he goes somewhere other than the Yankees. And what are the Yankees at this point? Maybe the Yankees have Bobby Witt. Like I don't know what those worlds look like, but I think that's why people love free agency and
Yep.
trades as much
Yep.
as they do, because it's like those alternate worlds coming into reality.
A fun alternate kind of universe conversation that we were actually having in the car on one of the road trips that we've had is what an expansion draft could potentially look like, and just what players would you protect, like
Oh yeah.
who would get selected, all of that good stuff. We'll get into the details of that in a little bit, but you were just on the Pat McAfee show, and you were talking a little bit about Nashville. I used the word shoe in, so I'm excited to hear a little bit about that in terms of expansion, but the realignment side of things too. I guess we'll start with expansion because I
Uh-huh.
imagine both of these things are going to be in the CBA coming up in 27, right? Or
It's
what do you?
it will be interesting to see, because I think the one thing we have to acknowledge with expansion and realignment and everything there, not only has the process not been started yet for any of those things, like not even initially. There are back channel discussions, things along those lines, but no formal process has been started yet. We wouldn't be looking at expansion teams until the 2030s.
Mm.
They're not gonna get the stadiums built in time. They're waiting for Vegas to firm up and to know that the A's are going there. They're waiting to figure out what's going on with Tampa Bay. And while the Rays have new ownership, what does that mean for the stadium there? Like, there are a lot of things that MLB, before they delve into that expansion territory, want to take care of. So this is for a few years down the road, but it's still intriguing to talk about anyway.
Is there realignment without expansion?
There's no reason to realign without
Yeah. So that
expansion.
was. I just thought it was interesting that there was just. You mentioned like they're not even near the process of even really beginning to do anything there yet. The commissioner brings that up. Like, do you think that was just something kind of a slip of the tongue? Do you think he wishes he kind of had that one back? Because now he's. I've seen 8 different content creator graphics of like this is what my realignment would look like, and now all of a sudden we'd be remiss not to ask you about it. So it's something that you think he probably put the cart ahead of the horse here, and it's like I probably shouldn't have talked about that.
Yes. But I think he was asked and did not elegantly sidestep that. And in doing so, opened up this Pandora's box where I've seen some of the most horseshit realignment ideas imaginable. And I am now, like, admittedly, I'm very pro American League and National League. I'm not the guy who's going to sit here and say I want baseball to look the same as it used to. I love the pitch clock. I think it's been great. I think the ABS challenge system is going to be really good. But to me, the idea of like a Phillies, Yankees, Mets, Red Sox division, that just appalls me. And I don't think that baseball needs to be made any more parochial than it is right now. And yet that's what I worry about geographic realignment doing. It's taking this sport that should be and ostensibly is a national game and breaking it down into little pockets of the country and trying to run the game like that. And that like and if you want to do geographic realignment, you also need to completely change the schedule to make it such that it's unbalanced and these teams are like facing more in division opponents than they would otherwise in order to cut down on that travel.
Exactly. Which is something they
Beyond
just got away from. So
it,
it doesn't make
dude,
sense.
exactly. And beyond that, I'm sorry, but if you're telling me that it's going to be rare that the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox and New York Mets and Philadelphia Phillies go out to California and vice versa, that you're not showing this huge league that spans the entire country for all that it is, but trying to focus on different areas, I just think that's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Is there a way to realign that you would be for? Maybe, or at least that you can understand, maybe all realignment you're not really into. Like, I think of what you said with the American League and the National League, maybe even potentially set it up like a Western and Eastern Conference, even though we kind of already have the American League and National League. I guess my question is there a way to realign the teams that you would be okay with?
Yeah, like the least amount possible.
There we go.
Just it just and I don't think it's that hard. I don't have all of it in front of me. I've seen a couple of those, attempts by people that I thought were pretty compelling. But you're gonna have to create divisions whole cloth like that, and that's not an easy thing to do when you have three established ones in each league already. But I think as long as you keep the leagues similar to what they are, it's not going to be. We've seen Milwaukee switch leagues, we've seen Houston switch leagues. Like this has happened before, and it's okay for an American League team to go to the National League and vice versa. Just getting rid of the leagues essentially, or the fabric of the leagues altogether, doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And I think that if you're going to erase what has been in the game, there has to be a tangible benefit to it, not just to players, but to fans. And I'm not sure what the tangible benefit fans are getting from radical realignment is.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think about how much I loved the idea of teams playing everybody more. Because
Yeah.
as a kid, I used to be so excited in South Florida when Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz came to town every felt like half decade, and it would be so cool for me. But now kids growing up can see those players more consistently and see those stars come to town more
Uh-huh.
consistently, and I think that's good for the game. So I do find myself agreeing with a lot of that. One more question, just kind of on the larger just CBA conversations and things like that. You know, as we know, it's never really going to get going until both sides are losing money at the same time. That's where you're going to get people really being willing to give a bit. There's a lot of negativity and a lot of doomsdaying, but on the flip side, you have a game that's in a really good spot. ESPN citing their ratings, how well they've been doing with the Major League Baseball, games in prime time and the ratings being up this year. You look across the board, attendance is strong. Everywhere you look, there's a lot of reasons to be bullish and excited about the direction that baseball is heading in. On the other side, big reason not to be is that you have Rob Manfred and one of the faces of the sport getting into it in a clubhouse, and you have a lot of concern about the way that things may go in a potential lockout. Is the league aware? And I know the answer is yes, but like how much could the momentum that Major League Baseball is building potentially help alleviate some of the risk of a lockout? I know you're going to give me the answer I don't want to hear.
So before you were born, there was this thing called a strike, and it sucked. Like, 14-year-old Jeff Passan in Cleveland, Ohio in 1994 like back when the Indians were starting to like get good. And they were really good that year. Having the World Series canceled, it broke my heart. And that was back in a media environment that wasn't nearly as bountiful with options as exists now. That was before everything was as bifurcated and more than that, as like direct to consumer as it is now. What you want, you can go get. And if you want baseball, you can go get it. And if baseball's pissing you off, you can go get something else. So baseball writ large has no reason to do anything but invite fans in. And when you have a labor war, there's nothing, and I mean nothing, that will push them away faster than that. Because nobody is a sympathetic character in that situation. The owners, through the eyes of fans, are rich assholes, and the players are entitled babies. And look, I don't find either of those things necessarily to be true, but it's hard to get away from that sort of narrative when they are arguing over what amounts to a few $100 million. And because that's what it is. At the end of the day, all a collective bargaining agreement is a math problem.
Yeah.
And how do you get to that point where both sides are unhappy? It's not both sides are happy, because both sides are never going to be happy. But if you get to a point where both sides are unhappy where it is, that's where you're going to find your deal. Because they're both giving up something, but both understanding that the good of the game long term is so much bigger than a single collective bargaining agreement. And I believe that there are enough levers in place that this is not going to spiral into that doomsday scenario. I think that missing time, it's not just the lockout. Like a lockout itself in December would not surprise me one bit. A lockout that causes them to miss games, that would surprise me. And I hope that everyone involved is smarter than to let it get to that point, because the consequences of that, I worry, could be catastrophic for baseball.
They've done so much. There's so much good. Like
So
they've
much.
made so much progress. So that did make me feel better. Sorry, Peter. I just had I just
No,
had to
no,
say
you're totally right. And I am curious because you brought up Doomsday, and that makes my heart drop a little bit. Is there something in the CBA, maybe a specific issue that you feel could eventually lead to the Doomsday? Or is it more just a collection of everything? But is there one thing that you're looking at and say, yeah, that could be a major problem?
Salary cap. If owners insist on a salary cap, there will be games missed.
So if the Brewers win the World Series, do those owners who insist on a salary cap lose leverage?
I mean, should they?
Yeah. I wanted
Like,
to ask you about the Brewers anyway. That's a second. You put a tweet out about them. I'm sorry if I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially them being, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the gold standard of how to operate right now, in terms of maximizing assets and
up
being
there,
efficient.
it's the Brewers, it's Tampa, it's Cleveland. I know the Guardians traded Junior Caminero for
It
Tobias
happens.
Myers. So yeah,
Well, at
bad.
least
You
they
know
did
what?
send somebody
Jordan
back.
Alvarez for Josh Fields,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like even the best teams do it sometimes.
What is it about the Brewers that, of course, the fact that I think they seem to marry the scouting and analytics side of things as well as anybody, and they even bake it into the reports, and that stuff is really cool. But you see the
See,
way that
there's not a lot of scouting there though.
yeah,
It's not like the Brewers were one of the first teams to just like straight up get rid of professional scouts.
yeah,
Like they are more analytics than
mhm,
most teams. But I think they're analytics with heart, which sounds like an oxymoron, right? Because analytics are supposed to be just an objective look at things, but I think the Brewers factor in
that
human
twinges
decisions.
people. Yeah,
Yeah, there are human decisions being made. What they do is those human beings lean on the analytics pretty heavy, and if there's a tiebreaker in place, they're probably going to go with the analytics ahead of what their brains are telling them. But at the same time, like analytics are so interesting to me, and the way that they are used. I try and talk with people outside of baseball, in other professional sports, just to understand how they run their teams and their operating philosophies and how baseball differs from some of the other sports. But there are things that cross over among all of the sports, and the use of analytics is one of them. And I had a fascinating conversation with somebody in the NBA a few weeks ago about just how much to use analytics at particular points along your journey trying to build a team. And his philosophy was early on, like if you're just starting from scratch, just go full blown analytics. Just trust. And this is kind of what the Marlins are doing, right? Just go after as much talent as you can possibly get and build that up and let the analytics tell the story. And that will give you a foundation. Like it's just bound to. If your numbers are good, and most numbers frankly are the same these days, like there's not a whole wide variance among analytical groups and front offices, but if your math is good, then you're going to get at least in all likelihood a few players out of it. Then
Mhm.
once you have that foundation in place, you know, the science can sort of step back a little bit and the art can kind of go up a little bit. You start adding. And then once you get into that like championship type window, that's when analytics are there as like a helper, like a chat bot. But what you should be doing is focusing on winning and focusing on culture and focusing on people and all of those other things that can be complementary pieces to this foundation that analytics helped you build. And the the ability to know when to do what along that process, that's the most difficult thing I think front offices have to do.
And that was my frustration with the Cubs was because I thought that would be, especially after you go get Kyle Tucker, that's just the time where maybe you defy the model a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like, because there's never going to be a trade for a star. And I think Andrew Friedman talked about it in free agency, right? Like, you're never going to get the star in free agency or a lot of times in a trade on a good deal. You're going to have to overpay. And I thought that was kind of a frustrating aspect of it is it feels like less teams are willing to stray from the model unless they're lined up beautifully
The
and that
Dodgers
seems to be
do.
disappointing. Yeah.
And maybe the Dodgers do because they can just always pay for it. But the Dodgers have done so at the trade deadline in past seasons too. And I know those deals, like by and large, have turned out pretty well for them. You know, the six guys they gave up from Manny Machado. I don't know how many of them panned
Yusniel
out.
Diaz, I think. That's all I can remember.
Mm.
I think Zach Pop might have been in that deal, and he was a big leaguer.
Yeah.
Let's look this up. How many ball if you can remember who the six prospects
Yeah.
for Manny Machado are.
Due to trauma,
Yusniel,
I can do that for Miggy, but I can't do it. I can't do it for
well, for
Machado.
Miggy, it was Cam Maben, Andrew Miller, and who was the third?
You had Burke Badenhop and you had Mike
Babenham.
Rabello.
What a
Mike
package.
Rabello. Wow. Okay. So, oh, you know what? Dean Kramer was in that deal too.
Oh,
Okay. So
Yeah.
they got something out of it.
Yeah, Rylan Banyan, Zach Pop, I was right on that. Breivik Valera, Yusniel Diaz, and Dean Kramer. So
I'm also thinking about the Arenado trade. Austin Gomber just got DFA'd. That was the last remaining player from that Arenado
yeah,
deal.
yeah. Well, that was also like a straight up salary dump.
Yeah.
yes.
That
Speaking of analytics, well, who do you think? What early 2000s baseball player do you think is going to join the war on analytics next?
I have no desire to encourage anyone to do that because I do not need to commit more digital crimes. Like I feel like I leave a trail of blood at every scene I visit. So
I've
I'm
seen the
just
meme. The meme is always great, right? With like the Grim Reaper coming out of the different like doors. I feel like you've done that up, but I will say there's so many times where I just like I have something typed out as a reply, and I delete it. But now sometimes seeing you do that, I'm like, oh, maybe I should just let it fly.
no. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. We don't need more of that. You don't need more smug pricks acting like they know everything on the internet. Like there's only so much room for us.
So let's indulge the anti-analytics crowd. You said when you were talking about the Brewers that they utilize analytics as much as anybody, but you also mentioned they're looking for human qualities. Use
Yeah.
the term heart. Is that a secret formula, or have you talked with someone in Milwaukee who kind of divulged some of the specific things they're looking for beyond just the plain old numbers?
I would love like what's the acronym of HEART? What does that stand for? High effort.
High effort, ass kicking. Nope, there's no K.
No, yeah, you don't know how to spell, Peter.
Yeah, I don't know how to spell. Yeah, I'm working
As
on it.
you know what? I'm gonna give you. We're gonna time this. I'm gonna pull up and I'm gonna talk for the next 75 seconds, and in those 75 seconds, we're gonna see how good of an acronym you can come up with.
All right,
Three,
all right, I
two,
This
got you.
is his worst
one,
nightmare.
go. So no pressure, Peter. You probably should be writing something down
I
because
almost,
you have 70 seconds now, and you're letting me fuck you up
all
by
right.
engaging with me here. I think the Brewers and the way that they've gone about things, to me, like Latin America is the perfect example
Oh,
of
they're
how they've
crushing.
become a well-rounded organization. They were horrendous in Latin America, like a non-presence. And Mike Grootman, who's bounced around a little, he's in Boston now, was in Kansas City, went to Milwaukee. He came in as an analytics guy and he took over internationally for them and just changed the processes that they had in place. And something you have to know, like about Latin America, it's about relationships down there. It's about knowing the people as much as it is scouting, but it's also about a really, really inexact science of trying to figure out what 13 and 14-year-old boys are going to look like when they're men.
Yeah.
And it's stupid. It's ridiculous that they scout them that young because uh, you can't project that. And yet the highest paid guys quite often do turn out to be the best players. Peter, go.
High energy, athleticism, respect. How about respect for the game? Tenacity. What do you think about that?
I was hoping that it wasn't going to be like words strung together.
You gave me 75 seconds. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to come up with a poem? A haiku?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Could have, should have,
But
but
also,
it's
you're
a
Jeff Passan. I'm trying to hear your answer too, so I'm doing multiple things at once. I'm giving 75 seconds. I think it was pretty damn good.
all right. I respect the individual words you came up with were dandy.
Thank you.
The last thing I want to mention there on the Brewers front that I've just seeing, covering the minor leagues is they seem to do a really good job with the player development side of things. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's that feel part that there's no exact science, but they have a plan in place mechanically. Like you see what they've done with, of course, Jesus Mate has made this incredible leap, but they've got several guys that the second they hit a little bit of adversity, they know exactly the tweaks that they need to make mechanically to kind of get to where they need to get or approach wise or whatever it may be. Is there maybe an underrated org for you that in terms of that you just kind of see the way they go about their business and you think they do a really good job, but maybe don't get enough credit? Because I think sometimes fans and it's all you can do is just look at the outside and look at the results. But sometimes the results are just it's in spite or like despite the organization. Like there's just good players who figured it out with a third party hitting coach or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. Who's another one where you just keep hearing good things, whether it's from players or whatever? It's say like I'd like to be a part of that organization, maybe outside the obvious.
I mean, my answer was going to be Milwaukee before
Yeah,
they turned into the best team in baseball this year. I think Seattle, just in terms of player development and drafting, they've done an excellent job over the last couple of years. And it's mostly domestically, but a guy like Las Montez is a perfect example of what they're capable of doing internationally too. You just look at their drafts the last few years, and God, they have crushed them. It's not just getting Kate Anderson. They got lucky this year
yeah.
and won the lottery and got the number 3 pick, and the best player in the draft happened to slide down to them at the number 3 pick. But the year before, getting Durangelo St. And Ryan Sloan. Before that, Colt Emerson and Johnny Farmillo and Ty Pete. Late round guys, Tyler Locklear, and they went out and got Gino Suarez for Locklear. Logan Evans, who's been a godsend with all the pitching injuries they've had this year. They took him, I think, ninth round out of Pitt, like a late pick. And so it's not just hitting on the first rounders. Like that'll take you a long way. If you hit on first rounders every year, regardless of where you're picking, you're going to be in a good spot. But the Mariners, they've been able to hit on first and second and third and down and beyond and develop those guys into either major league contributors or trade pieces who got them real value at the deadline.
What other organizations do you think are heading in a really good direction like that? I think about the Marlins. We've been talking about Peter Bendix, and the transformation that the Marlins have done, since he, became the general manager of the Marlins. Are there any other teams on your radar where, they had a good deadline, they had a good offseason, they're drafting better than they normally do, and you're starting to go, I like the direction this team is heading?
I think Cincinnati's really interesting. They've got the manager in place in Terry Francona now, a guy who's been there and who has done this. Their pitching has a chance to be really, really good. When you're looking at Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo, Chase Burns as your top four, and that's to say nothing of Rhett Lauder, a guy who zoomed to the big leagues. Um, you've got those arms, and you've got Ellie De La Cruz as the centerpiece with some bats. Maybe they need another impact bat, and the Jamer Candelario contract was a disaster. Like they haven't done great in free agency, but there's enough talent in Cincinnati where I think they're going to be up there with the Brewers and the Cubs over the next couple of years. Other organizations that are on the upswing, the Marlins, I'm not entirely there yet.
Mm.
I only because I want to see what their higher end prospects wind up looking like. I'm not like inherently skeptical of teams whose number one prospect is a pitching prospect. I just know pitching prospects, and I know that no matter how good you are, your elbow's probably going to blow up at some point. And Thomas White, to be clear, is pretty awesome. And uh, to me, one of the things that has me buying into the Marlins more than I would have otherwise is Robbie Snelling.
Mm.
Like when the Marlins got Robbie Snelling last year from the Padres, he looked broke. And this year he has been breaking people in half. And he's going to join a rotation that has Eury Perez, who I think is by this time next year going to be one of the 10 best pitchers in baseball. And Edward Cabrera, who has finally stayed healthy and looks like a guy. And Sandy Alcantara. We could look at Max Meyer and Ryan Weathers. Don't ever know what we're going to get out of them, but the talent is clearly there. And even a guy like Jansen Junk, they've done a good job of taking guys and maximizing them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're looking for in organizations that have meager payrolls. It's who are you going to be able to transform into the best version of himself? And some orgs do that better than others.
I know you're one of the busiest men in baseball, so we don't want to take too much more of your time, but just wanted to wrap up really quickly with just a quick look ahead to the 2026 free agent class. It's not the sexiest in the world, but
It's
I
okay.
also find it. I find
okay.
it's okay. I find it interesting though because I know some teams might be looking to 2027 and saying like, well, smaller market teams, hey, I might wait to spend because we might be forced to spend in 27. I guess it would count towards that, but maybe our money will go a little bit further when other teams are capped. Maybe that's just silly speculation from mine. What are your thoughts on just the unknown of 2027 and beyond, and how that could impact the 2026 free agent class? And then, yeah, we'll get into a little bit of like who might be sneaky spenders off of that.
Yeah, historically, spending going into a lame duck basic agreement year goes down a little bit. Now, it'll be interesting when the clear number one guy in the class is hitting under 200 and loses his power for like 2 months in the middle of the season. It's a little alarming, and yet that's what we're seeing with Kyle Tucker right now. You have interesting guys. I do think Alex Bregman is likely to opt out, even if he does enjoy it in Boston, which he does. Kyle Schwarber is a DH who's in his mid-30s. Is he really going to warrant a 5-year contract? The way he's playing right now, he should. and the way that people gravitate toward him and love him in the clubhouse, absolutely. Do teams value Bo Bichette as a shortstop or as a second baseman? And does he get paid that way? Pete Alonso, Cody Bellinger, are they going to opt out and add a couple bats? The starting pitching is interesting. There's no like clear, obvious number one guy. I think Framber Valdez would probably be at the top of that list, but you've also got Dylan Cease, who's got the highest ceiling, Ranger Suarez, who's got the highest floor, Zach Gallen. Like there are, there are a number, Michael King's another. There are a number of really talented arms out there, and relief pitching as well. Edwin Diaz and Robert Suarez both expected to opt out of their deals. Devin Williams and Ryan Helsley not having quite the years that they would hope. Aroldis Chapman's been otherworldly. We've got players coming over from Japan potentially. Like the most fascinating to me is what's Luis Arraez going to get paid this winter. We're going to see the true valuation of batting average this winter.
That is the batting average litmus test right there. Like
it completely. And I'm worried it's not going to be frankly what it should, because Luis Arraez still does get on base. I know his WAR sucks compared to what everyone sees with the batting average. I still do think there's a ton of value in actually hitting the ball and putting it in play. And the man does not strike out. Like that to me is everything about Luis Arraez. Like, what's his strikeout rate this year?
Like 7%, 8%.
No. It's like 2%. I was wondering if it's yeah. We do these bold predictions at ESPN.com at the beginning of the season, and they are genuinely my least favorite thing because if I predict them correctly, well, of course you should, asshole. You cover baseball.
You're Jeff Passan.
Yeah, exactly. But when I get them wrong, and I'm going to get them wrong quite a fair bit, like I just get worn out for it. My prediction this year was that Luis Arraez is not going to strike out 20, or is going to strike out 20 or fewer times in the 2025 season. Currently
15 strikeouts, 2.8%.
15 strikeouts and 540 plate appearances.
You got a shot here.
It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And yeah, it like I get it. He doesn't impact the ball. The swing is, it's not one that's going to be carrying a lot of bat speed, but I still do think I will cape for batting average here. I do think batting average matters. I just think his free agency is going to illustrate that it doesn't matter quite as much as a lot of other things.
I agree. I think the pendulums has swung too much. When we say, batting average isn't as important as these analytical numbers, a lot of people took that as, well, then batting average just doesn't matter. And then the people who still care about batting average are now displacing all other analytics, almost protesting the analytical movement. I have another question about a player whose market I can't really figure out. Michael King. Because, he hasn't had a ton of time as a starter. But we've also seen a guy like Garrett Crochet get traded for an enormous package after just 146 innings with the White Sox, and look at him now. So that's not really a problem. What I see as a potential problem is now two separate injuries this season. Recovering off one, gets back, goes back on the IL with a knee thing. I don't think it's going to keep him out that long. But a guy who doesn't have a long track record of success, but in that short track record was one of the best pitchers in baseball. So again, I could see him getting a huge deal. I could see him getting a shorter prove it type deal, kind of depending on the rest of the season. I was hoping if you could dive into King's market a little bit more, because I'm just confused, Jeff. I'm a little bit confused.
I'm a little bit confused too, because I was not paying attention to you there, because I just got a text that Samuel Basallo's deal is done. So can I go tweet about this for 1 second?
Get out of here.
Absolutely.
And then come right back to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Michael King's an incredibly interesting case, because just on pure talent, like let's look at ceiling of these guys. I mean, I don't know if he's Dylan Cease, but he's pretty damn close. Like what we saw from him last year was spectacular. And the transition into the rotation, he proved he could be a horse when he's healthy. At the same time, he looks to me like such an obvious qualifying offer guy.
Mm.
Um, Either that or he rejects it, goes out and looks for a pillow contract. But if the QO's in the $23 million neighborhood, is another team really going to risk having him for just 1 year and losing a draft pick for that and then paying him over the QO? I mean, maybe, and maybe there are teams that do indicate, hey, we'll give you opt outs early on, or they, contract language can be manipulated so that what would not look like a good deal in our minds actually winds up being positive for the player. But it would not surprise me to see Michael King get the QO and remain in San Diego. It also wouldn't surprise me to see him go out there and have a team say, "Hey, this guy who we think is extremely talented and who we think is going to stay healthy is at a discount right now, so we should go and pay him, and we should give him the multiple years that he's looking for." A lot of it to me depends on how he finishes the season. It's going to be interesting down the stretch to see just how well he does, if he comes back, when he comes back, and what that looks like.
I mean, I found myself a little bit surprised that Pavetta, I believe it was, didn't take the QO, and then even more surprised that he actually ended up getting the deal that he got and ended up being looking like a pretty good one. So
He's been awesome. He's
So
been
good.
amazing,
ridiculous.
amazing. So how many teams, just based on how you feel, maybe like geared up to spend this year, other than the Cubs, who I think, I mean, it would be malpractice if they do not re-sign Kyle Tucker. How many teams can actually make a run at Tucker? Because it feels like Bregman, of course, is going to command a lot of money too, but it feels like Tucker's just based on the age, even with the slowing down. You figure he's finishes a year pretty well. At least there's something you can blame the lack of production on. You have a track record of this
Yeah.
guy being as consistent as anybody. How many teams can really make a run at Kyle Tucker, you think?
I was having this discussion with somebody a few days ago, and this person was kind of complaining, like when you get a free agent up in that echelon, how many teams can he actually go to? Now, it depends on what Kyle Tucker is getting paid, and it depends on an owner's willingness to perhaps stretch to that point where you pay enough in payroll and you might not make money. I do not believe that Major League Baseball is like a break even business. I look at the Atlanta Braves financials every year, and I know not every team is the Braves, but they're the ones that like we get to look under the hood, and under the hood business is good.
Mhm.
So could the Atlanta Braves, for example, sign Kyle Tucker? Absolutely, they could. Will they? No, I do not think they will. Could the Toronto Blue Jays? Absolutely. Will they? No, I kind of doubt it. Could the Yankees? Could the Red Sox? Yes, yes. Could the Orioles? Yes. Could the Tampa Bay Rays? Yes. All of these teams could, particularly if the cost is going down based on the production. And right now, teams are looking at what Tucker's done and kind of licking their chops, like, this guy who our model says is a 400+ million dollar player, maybe we're not going to have to pay that to go out and get him. And I think the point is, when you look at the Kansas Cities of the world that are guaranteeing $300 million to Bobby Witt, and the Seattles that are guaranteeing well over 200 to Julio Rodriguez, there are very few, to me, teams that can't sign anyone. Juan Soto, maybe a little different story. Shohei Ohtani, well, he would have been great anywhere, frankly, at the discount rate that they got on that contract because of the deferrals. Everyone could have signed him. I think my point is more, everyone can. It's just a matter of who chooses to. And it's just a matter of the standard to which individual owners hold themselves. And in some in some markets, that standard is really high, and in some markets it is laughably embarrassingly low.
It
Do you
is.
think anybody surprises us on that front?
I hope so. The
Yeah.
more teams that are involved with a guy, the more exciting a free agency is. And, I don't want this to turn into like a staring contest like the one between Bryce Harper and the Philadelphia Phillies, where eventually, and the Padres and Manny Machado was the same thing. That was my first winner with ESPN. And it was like February and March when those deals got done. And I was like, oh, so this is what it's going to be like. This is my life for
Yeah.
the next however many years I wind up working here. I'm just, free agency is going to start the day after the World Series. And then in the middle of spring training, the big free agents are finally going to sign.
So beyond the Kyle Tucker stuff, is there a team because this free agent class isn't amazing, but there still are a lot of really good players who are going to demand multi-year deals in the 4 and the 5 year range. Is there a team you're looking at come 2026 that we should have our eyes on? A sneaky team to spend in 26?
I don't know if this is a sneaky team, but to me, the most interesting team might be Philadelphia, just because Schwarber free agent this winter, Ranger Suarez free agent this winter, JT Realmuto free agent this winter. Like Zach Wheeler, what's his career going to look like? Like getting a blood clot removed, it's major surgery, and so we don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. And uh, so all of these things, Philadelphia is going to be in a transitional phase right now, and it's going to be interesting to see not just how they transition star wise and who they decide to bring in or what they prioritize, but also how they integrate some of these prospects that they have, whether it's Andrew Painter or Aiden Miller, Justin Crawford. Arun Escobar is a little further away, but Eduardo Tait was going to be in there until they went out and
Yeah.
got Joan Duran. Like there are a lot of there's a lot of difficulty in going from one era to the next. And the best organizations are the ones that navigate that smoothly. And we're going to see here just how smoothly the Phillies can navigate it because, uh, they have to. Like they have aged into a new era.
Also,
Yeah.
speaking about age, Dave Dombrowski. He's only got 2 years left on his deal, and he's getting up there in age a little bit.
Come on. I mean, look at the man's hair. Can you really
True.
say
He
he's
does
getting
look
up there
good.
in
He
age?
does look
Yeah,
good. The age is
always.
still there, but he doesn't look it.
No.
To wrap up, anything you put out an amazing just feature on Cal Raleigh and his family right after, and then it helped. You were doing that already before he won the home run derby. Always nice when they go out and win the home
It's the
run derby or
best.
something like that. I mean, like that had to just be just ideal. Anything
It was
you
it
want
was
to
not ideal actually, and here's
really?
why. Yeah, because I was down on the field. I don't do sideline reporting very much, and I still get kind of nervous when I do. And never before had my voice been over the loudspeakers in the entire stadium. I
Yeah,
watch
that's
I
weird.
watch my friends do this, and they look so smooth at it and so good. And there was one scenario in which I was going to have to be talking on national television. I think we had 9 million people watching the Derby. Like it was a lot of people watching the Derby and then over the stadium speakers as well. And that one scenario out of the 8 guys who were in it was if Cal Raleigh wins, you're going to talk to him. And so I remember like I don't actively root for or against, but in this instance, when Junior Caminero was at the plate, I was with Brandon Lau and Drew Rasmussen, and they were watching their teammate. And I turned to him and I was like, I kind of hope Junior wins. Because like nothing against Cal. I just didn't want the pressure there, man. Like I am not made for that big moment. I would shrink in a big moment like that. It gives me so much more respect for athletes knowing that I had that moment right there and I wanted to run away from it like a motherfucker. Like I had no interest in it, and I did okay. Like didn't completely trip over myself. Didn't make a fool of myself. It was not like my Sergio Dip moment, but it was one of those that made me very nervous.
And it's funny to hear that too, because you're the king of the big moment on social media, right? So, my last question for you is your Twitter bio, I bomb atomically.
Yes.
Is that just over the years you've sent out so many breaking news tweets, or was there a specific move that happened where you're like, I officially bomb atomically?
No, it's just a Wu-Tang lyric I like.
Okay.
That's all. That's it.
I was hoping
Nothing.
there's some secret story like, yeah, once I dropped this, I just knew it was me.
No, and honestly, like the Woj bombs are like the real bombs. I feel like I'm coming in like Woj is like the guy who would set off like the magnificent fireworks on July 4th, and I'm here like throwing bang snaps into the ground. It's little I don't bomb like that man did.
Well, favorite Wu-Tang song of all time then.
I mean, Triumph is like the posse cut of all posse cuts.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stick with that.
I,
I know
I
that's like an easy one, but sometimes greatness is just great.
Yeah, that's there's a reason why, right? And the last thing is just any work you have coming up, any pieces you have coming out that you can plug or that you're excited about, or anything for our listeners to not like they're going to miss it anyways, but anything for them to just not avoid because they're going to see it because everything you put out is going to be seen.
No, but keep following me and yeah, I got nothing there. Sorry. I am I supposed to
You
have
don't need
like
to
shame?
plug much. You don't need to plug anymore. It's just
No,
I'd be
I feel
remiss if I
like I
did.
feel like I'm in that post plug phase of my
Yeah.
life. Like
Yes. Yes.
when I write another book, I will be there to plug that. I promise
Yes,
that.
yes. Well, and I know, like, I think the arm might be our third co-host, Jack, who's the radio voice for the Marlins. That might be his favorite book of all time, I think. So,
Wow.
yeah, oh yeah, he's brought it up a ton of times. When I brought up Anthony Molina, the fact that he knew that name, I was like, how did you know that name? Because I hadn't read the book. He's like, it's in the arm. I'm like, no way, Anthony Molina is in. So that became a whole thing and prompted me to dive right in. And then there you are
Did you
talking about
play against him?
we were in the same travel organization. So when I saw
Ah,
you had quotes from Richie Palmer,
yeah.
I was like, holy crap. That was my travel. That was the head of my travel orgs. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, we'll tease that then. Will we get a book from you in the next 5 years, or is this going to be kind of like a Game of Thrones thing?
5 years, no.
10?
10 years, yes.
By the
Okay.
time they realign, you think it'll be timed up with that?
No, I think it'll be timed up with when do I have time in my life to do it? And my kids are both going to be either in college or out of college in 5 years. So that will free me up to get back and figure out if I still can write a book. Like I
I,
wonder. You know,
I,
those muscles atrophy, man. They do.
I think you can. I've faith in you.
I think you got it. But thank you so much, Jeff. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks so
Pleasure's
much.
mine, boys. Appreciate you having me. Heart.